Here is a paradox happening right here. You can earn $180,000 a year, but still be poorer than someone earning $65,000. Sounds crazy, right? But today, I will show you the golden trap that millions of people are voluntarily stepping into. I am Tony. I want you to imagine 2 apartments in the same neighborhood in Austin, Texas. Equivalent rent, same size, but the lives inside are completely different. The first apartment belongs to David. He is a senior software engineer with a salary of $180,000 per year, a figure in the top 10% of income in the United States. Stepping inside, you will be overwhelmed. A $3,000 85-inch TV hangs on the wall. A $6,000 imported leather sofa. The kitchen is full of the latest appliances, but many things are still in their boxes from last year's Prime Day. David's closet is packed with designer brands, many still with price tags. David earns a lot of money, but every time he checks his bank account, his chest always tightens. With luxury car installments, credit card debt, and a lavish lifestyle, David is exactly 2 paychecks away from financial disaster. If the company cuts staff, David will lose everything. Now, look at the second apartment. That is my home. My income is only at $65,000 per year, not even a third of David's. But stepping in here, you will see a completely different space. Relief. A modest but comfortable sofa. A TV that is just enough. The kitchen only has tools that are used daily. I check my bank account with absolute confidence. I have a reserve fund enough to cover 18 months and regularly invest 20% of my income into index funds. Same neighborhood, but the one earning less has 10 times the financial security. This is not a story about income. This is a story about the hidden relationship between belongings and money that most people never understand. David is not a bad or unintelligent person. He simply gradually accumulated a lifestyle that requires every dollar he earns to maintain. He never understood that owning less doesn't mean living worse. It means living with intention, deliberate living, and this lifestyle creates a financial margin that most high-income earners never experience. Today, I will lead you through minimalist money rules that categorize the person who is always well off and the person who is always broke, regardless of what their income is. These rules are not about asceticism or self-deprivation. They are about understanding that every item you own actually costs you money twice. The first cost is obvious, the purchase price on the receipt. But the second cost is the one that swallows your freedom, and it is usually much larger than the first cost. The second cost includes storage space, maintenance, mental energy, and opportunity cost. Let's take the treadmill you bought for $1,500 as an example. In major U.S. cities, living space costs from $30 to $50 per square foot annually. A treadmill takes up about 20 square feet. That means you are paying from $600 to $1,000 each year just to rent out space to that machine in your home, while it is often used only to hang clothes. Then there is maintenance cost. If you own a boat or a luxury car like David, the general rule is that annual maintenance costs account for about 10% of the item's value. A $30,000 boat will cost $3,000 per year for insurance, docking, and repairs, even if you never launch it. But the most expensive price is mental energy. Researchers have found that visual clutter increases cortisol levels, the stress hormone. Every item you own occupies a small part of your attention. You have to clean it, organize it, worry about it. Your belongings are actually causing you stress in a way that you cannot perceive. Finally, there is opportunity cost. Every dollar locked into unnecessary items is a dollar not taken to invest. The $15,000 that David poured into his home gym setup could become $50,000 after 15 years if it sat in the S&P 500. David is not just buying stuff. He is using future financial freedom to exchange for temporary things. Minimalists understand this very well. They don't avoid belongings because they hate convenience. They avoid them because they have calculated the real cost of owning and decided that most things are not worth it. This understanding leads us to the first rule, which will help you kill every shopping impulse immediately. Rule number 1. Always calculate the cost per use, CPU. Before buying anything, estimate how many times you will actually use it. Divide the total price by that number. This is the only honest measure of value. A $200 jacket worn 2 times costs $100 use. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 use. The more expensive jacket is actually much cheaper, literally. This calculation will destroy most impulse shopping decisions. You will see that a $300 kitchen tool that you only use 2 times per year actually costs $150 per use. That is an extremely wasteful way to spend. Conversely, a $2,000 mattress used every night for 10 years only costs you 55 cents for each sleep. That is an excellent investment for health. This rule helps you cut out temporary emotions to look at the truth. It helps you distinguish between what actually makes financial sense and what only looks attractive for a moment. And once you have mastered buying new things, we need to look back at what you currently have with a more ruthless test. Let's start with what I call the killer of all post-purchase regret. Most of us, including David, are fooled by the number on the price tag. David sees a shiny espresso machine priced at $1,500 and thinks, I make $180K. This is just pocket change. But I look at it in a completely different way. That is rule number 1. Always calculate the cost per use, CPU. The formula is very simple. Take the total value of the item and divide it by the number of times you actually use it. David bought that machine, excitedly used it during the first month, and then let it gather dust because the cleaning was too complicated. In a year, he used it 30 times. The actual cost is $50 for each cup of coffee. That is not a convenience. That is a bad investment. In contrast, I spent $2,000 on a high-end mattress. It sounds expensive compared to my $65K income, doesn't it? But I sleep on it every night. Over 10 years, I use it 3,650 times. My cost per use is only 55 cents. My $200 running shoes, used for 2 years and 500 runs, cost only 40 cents each time. When you start thinking in terms of cost per use, all the flashy marketing tricks will vanish. You will realize that a $300 dress worn only once to a party is a terrible waste, while a good set of work tools used daily is the bargain of your life. This calculation will destroy every impulse and force you to look at real value instead of momentary emotions. But what about the things you've already brought home? David has a spare room full of items that maybe one day will be used. That's when we need rule number 2. Apply the replacement test. I want you to try doing this right now. Go around your house, look at each item, and ask yourself, if this item suddenly disappeared today, would I be willing to pay out of my own pocket to buy that exact same item again? Be honest. Would you really buy back that cheese fondue set that you haven't touched in 2 years? If the answer is no, then that item has a negative value in your life. It is charging you through living space, the mental energy required to clean it, and mental clutter. Yet it brings no benefit. David keeps everything because he regrets the money, but he doesn't realize that every hour spent organizing items he wouldn't buy again is an hour stolen from things that are truly important. Financially stable people like me are ruthless with this test. If it doesn't pass, I sell it on Facebook Marketplace to get back some capital. Or I donate it. Eliminating physical burdens creates an extremely pleasant mental space. You will find yourselves making wiser financial decisions when you are not surrounded by mental debts, named old stuff. And here is the biggest hurdle for high-income people like David: the habit of upgrading. It leads us to rule number 3. Never upgrade just out of boredom. Every time Apple releases a new iPhone, David is the first one in line. His old phone still works perfectly, but he feels he needs the new one just because the old one has become familiar. In psychology, we call this the confusion between functional obsolescence and psychological obsolescence. A phone that still makes calls, browses the web, and works well does not need replacing. David replacing his phone, car, and laptop every 2 years costs him an average of $15,000 per year. If David took that money and invested it in the S&P 500 with an average interest rate of 10%, after 30 years, he would have an additional $2.5 million. Let that number sink into your mind. David is trading $2.5 million of freedom for slightly sharper photos and the feeling of excitement during the first few days of unboxing. Minimalists define broken very clearly. An item is only broken when it can no longer perform its basic function. Boredom is not broken. The desire for novelty is not broken. I still use the old car I bought 5 years ago because it still gets me to work safely and economically. To me, real excitement doesn't come from new things, but from seeing my net worth grow every month. When you master these 3 rules, you have begun to build a solid financial protection barrier. But how do you maintain this discipline when the world around you is always screaming at you to spend money? I will show you how to set up a financial environment that makes saving as easy as breathing, and how to let your money automatically multiply without having to use willpower. Look at how David starts his evening. After a stressful 10-hour workday at the office, David collapses onto the sofa. He opens his phone and sees a 30% discount promotional email from Amazon. With just one buy now with one click tap because his credit card is already saved, David has just spent another $200 on a Bluetooth speaker set he didn't even need. David's mistake isn't a lack of willpower. His mistake is letting spending money become too easy. This leads us to rule number 4. Create friction for spending and create convenience for saving. In behavioral psychology, humans always follow the path of least resistance. If you want to save, you must make spending money harder and more troublesome. I helped David change his environment by applying friction knots. First, we deleted all credit card information from shopping websites and food delivery apps. Now, whenever he wants to buy something, David has to stand up, find his wallet, get his card, and manually enter 16 digits. Those 60 seconds of friction alone are enough for his logical brain to wake up in time and ask, "Do I really need this?" The result was that 70% of David's impulsive transactions disappeared immediately. Next, uninstall shopping apps and unsubscribe from promotional emails. Don't let temptation come looking for you. Conversely, I make saving as lazy as possible. As soon as my salary hits my account, an automated system immediately cuts 20% to transfer directly into an investment account before I even see that money. If you don't see the money in your account, you won't have the feeling that you are losing something to save. You simply learn to live on the remaining amount. That is my secret. I don't use willpower to save. I use a system. Remember, willpower will betray you when you are tired, but a system will not. But how do you know when your system is being overloaded by belongings? Let's get to my rule that sounds a bit extreme, but is extremely effective. Rule number 5, inventory belongings by actual numbers. Most people terribly underestimate the amount of stuff they own. David thought he had about 15 shirts, but when I asked him to dump his entire wardrobe onto the floor and count, the actual number was 52. The number 52 caused a psychological shock for David. When you know you have 52 shirts, buying the 53rd is no longer adding a new item, but it becomes ridiculous. It clearly reveals the redundancy. Counting forces you to face the truth. I regularly inventory the most addictive categories: clothes, kitchen tools, and monthly paid applications. Knowing exactly how many I have helps me create a finish line. Once you've reached the number of 30 quality shirts, all the marketing efforts out there become meaningless. You are no longer a victim of discount programs because you already know you have enough. To maintain this, I apply a one-in, one-out policy. If I buy a new shirt, an old shirt must go. This friction makes me think extremely carefully. Is this new item really better than the item I'm about to get rid of? Speaking of redundancy, there is a trap that David very often falls into: fleeting hobbies. Last summer, David suddenly wanted to practice kayaking. Instead of trying it first, he went straight to the store and bought a professional gear set worth $2,500. He went exactly twice, felt tired and lazy, and since then, the kayak set has been sitting in a corner of the storage room. David's house is now like a museum of abandoned hobbies. This leads us to a smarter rule. Rule number 6: rent or borrow before owning. My rule is very simple. If you want to try something new, whether it's playing an instrument, camping, or filmmaking, rent the gear first. Renting gear gives you two things. First, the time to know if you are truly passionate about it. Second, the knowledge to know exactly what type of equipment you need to buy if you decide to go long-term later. David lost $2,500 to find out he didn't like kayaking. I only spent $100 on rent to realize the same thing. That $2,400 difference of mine is currently generating profit in a stock account. Testing before owning helps you maintain flexibility. You can explore the world without being weighed down by expensive but useless items. Remember, wealth doesn't lie in how much equipment you have in storage, but in how many experiences you have in your mind. Look at David. Last summer, he excitedly bought an old boat at a bargain price of only $15,000. He thought that was the only price to pay for those surfing afternoons. But that boat started demanding food. To tow it, David had to trade his current sedan for an SUV with greater towing capacity. He has to pay monthly docking fees, buy an additional trailer, specialized insurance, fuel, and maintenance tools. An initial $15,000 item actually triggered a cost ecosystem of up to $5,000 per year. This is how David, despite earning $180,000, still feels broke. He buys bait items without considering the accompanying multiplier. A professional camera leads to lenses, bags, memory cards, and a more powerful laptop for editing. A swimming pool leads to electricity bills, water bills, chemical bills, and cleaning fees. Meanwhile, I always calculate the multiplier before spending money. If an item requires too many accessories and maintenance costs, I cross it off my list immediately. Financial freedom doesn't come from what you can buy, but from understanding that each item is a long-term commitment. When you reduce these ecosystems, you don't just save money, but also save hundreds of hours of worrying and caring for them. But why does David continuously plunge into those whirlpools? Why is he never satisfied? The answer lies in the most important rule that helps me stay grounded, even though I only earn $65,000. Rule number 8. Define enough before you start earning more money. This is the biggest trap in the United States. We often let income decide our lifestyle, instead of letting needs decide. When David's income increased from $100,000 to $180,000, he didn't feel richer. Instead, he automatically upgraded the standard of what is necessary. A one-bedroom apartment is no longer enough. It must be a premium 2-bedroom unit. A Toyota is no longer enough. It must be a Porsche. David is running a race where the finish line always retreats one step further than his speed. In psychology, we call this the hedonic treadmill. The faster you run, the faster the belt under your feet spins accordingly, and you still stand in the same place. That is the feeling of financial instability. My difference is that I drew my finish line 5 years ago. I decided that a neat apartment is enough, a safe car is enough, and a quality 30-item wardrobe is enough. When my income increases, the entire surplus is not swallowed by belongings. It pours straight into my freedom. Look at this math. David earns $115,000 more than me every year. But because he continuously shifts the enough finish line higher, that money disappears into the cost ecosystems I just mentioned. Meanwhile, with a fixed enough level at $65,000, I am accumulating wealth at a rate David cannot imagine. Defining enough is a superpower. It transforms you from a money hunter into a money master. When you know what is enough, you are no longer controlled by envy when seeing a colleague with a new car, or tempted by the glittering billboards on the street. I want you to ask yourself today, where is your finish line? How much do you need to truly be happy and comfortable? Write that number down and commit to it. Don't let a new salary or a promotion decide for you. In the final part, I will show you how to measure wealth with a completely new unit, not in USD, but in the right to choose. And I will guide you on how to practice periodic purging to keep your financial fortress strong throughout the years. Most people, like David, measure wealth by what they accumulate: bigger houses, more luxury cars, or expensive watch collections. They see those as symbols of success. But I measure wealth with a completely different yardstick. Rule number 9. Measure wealth by optionality, not by accumulation. Imagine a common real-life situation in America. Our company falls on hard times, and the boss asks everyone to work 80 hours a week, including weekends, in an extremely toxic environment. David, with a $180,000 salary, but carrying Porsche payments and a penthouse on his shoulders, has no choice but to nod and endure it. He is shackled to his desk by his own luxury items. He doesn't have the freedom to say no. And me? With spending of only $2,800 a month and an emergency fund enough to live for 18 months, I have the greatest choice. I could quit tomorrow to find a better environment or spend 6 months learning a new skill without worrying about starving. That is true wealth. The money sitting in David's luxury car is dead money because it cannot buy freedom when he needs it. The money sitting in my investment funds is live money because it gives me control over my own time. Every time you're about to buy an unnecessary item, ask yourself, is this item worth trading my future optionality for? Most of the time, the answer will be no. But to keep this fortress of freedom strong, you need a maintenance habit. This leads us to rule number 10. Practice periodic purging instead of annual cleaning. Most people's mistake is waiting until the house is too cramped to do a massive liquidation. That's like trying to bail water out of a leaking boat. After just a few months, stuff piles up just as before. Financially stable people like me practice cyclical purging, checking new incoming items weekly, evaluating an item category monthly, and looking back at accumulation trends quarterly. Removing 3 items a week is much easier and more sustainable than throwing away 300 items a year. It keeps you constantly aware of what is entering your life. You'll begin to realize which marketing scripts are influencing you, or which emotional states trigger your urge to shop. This awareness is the best preventive medicine for your wallet. Now, look at the big picture. The relationship between minimalism and money is an extremely powerful two-way loop. When you own less, you have more money. But here's the interesting part. When you have more money and your savings account becomes solid, your need to shop to feel successful automatically disappears. Most people overspend because they want to fill an emotional gap created by financial instability. They buy things to feel worthy. But when your bank balance already tells you the story of success and safety, you no longer need David's Porsche to prove it to anyone. Financial confidence creates a positive loop. Spend less, save more, feel safer, less desire to shop, save even more. Conversely, David is in a negative loop. Spend everything, feel unstable, shop to reduce stress, even more unstable. Which loop you choose is up to you, regardless of your income. To conclude today's video, I want you to take these 3 simple steps immediately. This weekend, pick out 10 items in your house that if they disappeared, you would not buy again. Sell or give them away. Feel the relief when they are gone. From today, every non-essential item over $50 must wait exactly 24 hours before checkout. Watch how many items you abandon after a night's sleep. Write down your enough number. How much do you need each month to live comfortably? Keep that number fixed, even if your salary increases. Research has shown that after reaching a certain threshold of safety and comfort, buying more stuff does not increase your level of happiness at all. Minimalists are not people living in hardship. We are the ones who have found the shortcut to satisfaction. The apartment of the $65,000 earner with 18 months of reserves that I mentioned at the start of the video is the symbol of true wealth. David, with $180,000, but always living in anxiety, is the one who is actually struggling. The difference only lies in whether you choose to own your belongings or let your belongings own you. The math always supports minimalism. So does peace of mind. Thank you for following Tony Invests Wealth. If you want to start this journey to freedom, hit like, subscribe, and share which rule you liked best in the comments section. I am Tony, and remember, wealth does not lie in what you spend, but in what you have the choice to do. See you in the next video.